What I'd like to talk about today is Secchi scoring, single threshold versus multiple threshold for grading purposes on a report card. Since what I'd like to cover first is just a little information about the Chester River. It's 63 miles in length from the headwaters in Delaware to Love Point in the Chesapeake Bay. There's 43 named tributaries. Two counties border each side, Kent and Queen Anne's counties. There's 390 square miles and 3 salinity regimes. 86% is mesohaline, 11% is oligohaline, and 3% tidal fresh. And this being the lower, the darker area being the oligohaline and tidal fresh. Our testing history with regard to our report card for the information that was actually collected by Chester River Association. In 2007 there was 15 sites. DO samples were taken at the top and the bottom, and they were titrated manually along with Secchi clarity depth. 2008, 19 sites were tested. Chester River purchased a mini-sonde probe. The sensors in that probe were for dissolved oxygen, conductivity, DO, temperature, and water depth. The data collected in 2008, again, was just the top and bottom, the sample depth, and then separately Secchi. In 2009, the same sites were tested. The data collected again was top and bottom, total depth, temperature, and sample depth. The Secchi again was collected individually, separately. In 2010, again, 19 sites were tested, but there was a change to column testing where a sample with the probe was registered every meter. Collected at that time was dissolved oxygen, total depth, water temperature, sample depth, and conductivity. It wasn't realized at that time that salinity would be calculated by the handheld portion, so it wasn't collected. That was added to the screen in the following year. Salinity was collected just with one surface sample with refractometer, and turbidity was collected using the Smart 2. A sample was collected and tested for turbidity in the Smart 2 colorimeter, which gives a direct read when compared against a standard MTU sample. And again, Secchi. In 2011, again, we collected at 1 meter intervals. We included salinity this year, turbidity, and Secchi. This is just an example of where our test sites are. In 2007, 2008, and 2009 report cards, a 24-inch threshold was used across all salinity regimes, strictly pass or fail assessment. Really didn't give a clear picture of the actual condition of the water. Salinity regime was not considered, and it was just the percent threshold attained that was reported. On the 2010 report card, we used the multiple threshold scoring. All previous years were calculated so that we could compare 2009 to 2010. This is just the database in which we place our information. Reports can be printed directly from this that will do the calculations. If you click that again, our Secchi is automatically does a conversion. We collect it in inches, it automatically converts, makes the metric conversion. This is one of the reports. I know this isn't totally clear, but let's see what happens if you click that. Okay. This, under the Secchi with a single threshold, 14% attain the threshold. And in, for example, in 2011, using that 24-inch threshold, if you click that again, is a 0%. This is another visual of that same data. Again, these 6 out of the 7 collected did not were not attained with the threshold, but again, you don't really have a clear picture of that. This is the same information using the converted data into the metric. If you might be familiar with this book, this takes us into the multiple threshold scoring. Again, the multiple threshold scoring using salinity regime assigns a score. And I added this in here just to give you where those breakdowns are. Again, using the metric, if you click that, what happens is we assign scores to each of those data points so that these now have a score reflected that gives us a better picture of the actual condition of the water. You can go ahead and click those. That 14% now turns into a score of 59.5. The 0 again comes into a 36.2. But it gives a better assessment of the actual condition of the water as opposed to just the fact that it failed. And I believe this is the last slide, just showing the multiple threshold scores. Again, these scores here are just basically for my own information. They're raw data scores and yet have to be combined with the data that we receive from Chesapeake Bay program, as well as being area weighted for final scoring. Any questions?